So we're going to start with a data set today that is unclassified, and we're going to kind of work our way through it from start to finish. The data set we're going to be working on, let me at least get that pulled up. I'm very clever with my naming, clip2. But as you'll see here, it has been clipped per the file name. You would know that, but it's been clipped. It is unclassified, so there's no classifications. It's been clipped, and I did thin it. So I do like to thin, especially drone data sets, or I don't know, just new data sets that are coming in general, because you'll get pockets of high density and low density, and doing a nice strategic thin evens everything out, makes that point spacing a lot easier to work with, and you just downsample your data. So everything from file read writes, everything is quicker. So I like to do that. It's not certainly not necessary, but that's the prep that went into this. So very little. This would be the point of a project where it's just been calibrated. So most of the times you'll get a product like this the same day you fly it. So we're going to start with a digital grid project. We'll be very clever, and I'll name this demo. I'll name it demo 2. And I'm going to change the rendering to elevation. I think that's just a little easier to see. And we'll go something like that. And we'll get started. So our digital grid product is a digital twin. It's basically a vectorized version of your utility poles. So you'll have poles and wires and cross arms and guy wires and all that good stuff. But typically how this is done in the past is you classify a data set first, and then you use those classifications to derive these models. There's automations or scripts that people write that maybe would take the classifications and automatically extract these vectors. What we decided to do is just start with the vectors and then say, hey, we got these vectors, we got this digital grid. Let's use that to then classify our data set. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And hopefully I don't go too fast or too slow, but hopefully it makes some sense. When I start this, I start with a pole. That's kind of the base thing. Everything's built off of. Your spans are 2 poles. Your guy wires originate from poles, all that type of stuff. So we're going to start with a pole. We're going to pick our extraction type, which is, in this case, I'm going to do pole point, which it expects a point on me to click on the pole. If I did proximity, it would expect that I pick a point somewhere in the proximity of the pole, which is really nice if you're maybe doing it from 2D and you're trying to go real fast, but kind of want to explain the tools a little better today. So we'll just do pole point. This is a distribution pole, and we're going to keep high density on because this is a relatively high dense data set. And if extractions don't work right sometimes, this is typically what you'll change to tweak. When I click the first time on the pole, you'll see that it extracts the pole. Sometimes you got to zoom in a little bit. It extracts the pole, and you can see this little instructions to hold the space bar to automatically add a new span and new pole with a single click. So I haven't clicked yet, and if I hold space bar and click right now, it's going to add a pole, and it's going to add another span and vectorize the wires. So you kind of see that like that. And it also extracted that cross arm too. So if I go to the next one, again, I'm going to hold space bar and click. Boom. I'm noticing that I should probably change the coloring here just so we can all see this maybe a little bit easier. That's not a whole lot easier, but we'll just make the point size a little bit smaller. Okay. So I'm holding spacebar, and I'm just going to keep going down my span. And there's a bunch of strategies you can be more specific in area. So I could have added the service wires or guy wires, all that stuff over here, but I like to kind of do the main alignment first and then work on the details later. So the main branch kind of continues this way. So I'm going to continue to hold spacebar and continue with the extraction here. But if I went down a branch like that and I want to continue that spacebar clicking, I can set the new start pole. So I can say that this is where I want to leave off from. Click that, and now if I hit spacebar and I go again, my alignment continues in this direction. And you can be pretty zoomed out for this. It's intelligent enough to know what's in the foreground. So if I, like for example, this is probably actually a really good pole. If it'd be really easy for me just to move my mouse barely off of the pole and for it to hit the ground or vegetation or something behind it. But if I click generally in the region, it'll find the pole just because it samples that area and it's going to find the points closest to my click. So it's not super sensitive about where you click as long as it knows what tool you have active. So that's the bulk of the poles here. So it has 22 poles as part of this kind of main, called this main alignment. So let's start back from the beginning, and now we'll start adding some of the details. And for that, I am going to actually turn the point density or the point size up a little bit with these smaller features. So we got this little pole there. Now I can kind of show you the other tools. So add span. If I click on one pole and click on another, we just added a span between those two. And this is actually probably a really good example because that span didn't extract that wire. So I'm going to remove it real quick. Now there's a couple options I can do here. I can come back to add span, and probably the first thing I would do here is switch it to low density because there's only a handful of points between the two, and try it again. And that was able to get it. But if it didn't get it, I could come in here and manually add a wire too. So that's kind of our fallback if the auto extractions don't work. So the next thing we want to do here is we're going to add a cross arm to this pole, and I'm going to just click on the pole, and it automatically added that cross arm. I know it's probably really hard to see, especially on YouTube, but I have two extraction methods for cross arms. There's an auto extraction and a manual extraction. That one I just did an auto, so it finds the wires, finds the poles, and then it finds a cross arm. So this one already has a cross arm, but it does have this service drop, or we'll call it a service drop for the sake of this demo. So we got that, and I'm actually just going to add this as a span, another low density span. So there we go, got it. Moving on. Now this pole here, we have a cross arm that's missing and a cross arm that's included, just by the way of how we did that process of holding spacebar as we were doing the main alignment. So I can come back in here, we'll do auto again. If I click on the pole, it finds that last cross arm and vectorizes that. So we have our first guy wire, and the guy wire asked me to click on the pole that it belongs to. So that's the right pole. And click here. Now it only requires one point for the cross arm, but I generally do two because it has just perfect results when you do two, I swear, and then one is sometimes a little iffy. Oh, I completely forgot this one over here, this pole. Let's see here. Click the pole, hotkey Command S to get to my extract span. Got the span. I'm going to add this guy wire. Okay, one guy wire, two guy wire points. Okay, and I'm also going to get that cross arm real quick. Got it. So I don't know if you guys can see that. That probably helps a little bit, but I think we got that pole. So let's move on. Now here we do have a service drop, so let's go ahead and add a service wire. Similar to guy wire, it's going to ask what pole does this belong to, and if I could actually click on the pole, that'd be helpful. So there's a click, and we're going to mark approximately where it terminates. So that looks good. We're going to add service wire, and it added it. And we also have a guy wire. Sometimes Sometimes it's nice just to zoom in to click the pole. Guy wire, guy wire. Got it. We'll just call this another pole and span. Now, if I'm starting to go a little faster, it's because oh, here's a good example. Or what I was going to say, if I'm going a little faster, it's because I'm starting to use hotkeys. But that was a failed extraction on that span. So, and that was on low density. So again, we can try the other density preset, which I don't have a ton of confidence that that's going to solve it. But I guess we can try. Yeah, and there's just something in there that it doesn't like. So we're going to do a manual wire here. So, no, I shouldn't have deleted the span. I should have deleted the wire. That's what I meant to do. Okay, delete the wire. Now I'm going to add a wire. What span does it belong to? So I click the span. Now I'm going to, kind of like how we extracted the service wires, I'm going to click on, a few points along the wire. There's no like set number necessarily. And then it does a far better extraction. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so I might have missed some things here. In general, I got 90% of it. Took maybe 10 minutes. I wasn't really paying attention to the clock either, but got most of the poles, wires, guy wires, cross arms, and service drops. I would definitely want to go through this in more detail if this is a production project. But just for the sake of today and showing kind of what this all can do, I'm going to leave it at that. So that was all unclassified. I'm going to quick run a macro now that does a basic classification. So it's just going to do ground, low, medium, high veg, that type of thing. And we're going to say veg class. I'm really good at my file naming apparently. And we're going to hit classify. And we're going to wait for that to get done. That might take a few minutes here. Okay, so that took just under 200 seconds. Was probably quicker than normal just because I had clipped this data set and thinned it. So it's probably not a good representation for most data sets, but hey, if it's faster, I'll take it. But I just want to set the bar that one can take a little longer. So let's pop that one in. We called that reverse class. I got that loaded in, and for now, I'm actually going to turn off the digital grid completely so we can view these new classes that we made. So we did the ground, we did the low, medium, high veg already, but now we have all these new classes. So we have poles here. We'll just make those yellow-ish, I guess. We got, let's turn this up a little bit even. We got, what is this here? Wires, we'll make wires kind of like more of a pink so they stand out a little bit more. What do we got here? Cross arms, we'll make those orange. Usually the defaults are fine, but we might have some service wires. Service wires are white. And we can similarly, we'll make those like a light blue or green. I don't know colors. What is that? And we got something else here. What else do we got? Oh, probably guy wires. As you can see here, those guy wires, those service wires, pretty dang good. Like that service wire going to the house there, the wire here, the cross arm, the guy wire dropping down there. I mean, and then the poles are about perfect. So, with cleanup for buildings and running macros for buildings, this would be looking really good. But you can see what this does after 25 minutes. But for now, let's go back and let's turn the digital grid back on. We'll just classify the data set again by elevation, and let's create an alignment. So we have this digital grid, and we have all the spans, but let's just actually create an alignment out of it. So we can come back to the toolkit and create an alignment, and we're going to hit create alignment. And if I turn off the point cloud and I turn off my digital grid, this is an alignment. So this is it's basically a representation of the spans that we made, but we have an alignment. So we could take that now, we could save that. So let's save that as DG alignment, sure. We could come back in here and we could go, let's export this whole entire thing as a DXF. We'll toss the ones that we have in so far. So we got I can never quite figure out navigation and cloud compare, but we have our DXF, which is the digital grid, in kind of a CAD format. We have, and we can also pop that into GIS. So we made that alignment here. We could come back and we have pole locations. So we could dump those in here. So we have all our pole locations as GIS friendly formats here as well. So we can take a look at that. For the sake of this video, I just wanted to show the digital grid process. In a follow-up video, I'll dive more into the different analysis that you can run, the different types of reporting that we'll be able to get into. But hopefully you have a little bit of a better idea of how the tools themselves work, what kind of output you can get from them, what kind of speed it gives you. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.